During one of his speeches, Ron Paul, a former U.S. representative, said, "One day I walked into an operating room and they did a cesarean section, lift out a baby that was crying and breathing and put it in the bucket in the corner of a room, and let it die. Meanwhile, just down the hall, a baby about the same size was being born premature, and all of a sudden 20 people, doctors and nurses, all were rushing to save the baby's life. Would you be willing to kill your own child knowing how human it already is?" According to the CDC, in 2014, over 600,000 legal-induced abortions were reported. My dad was adopted, so I've spoken to my grandma on multiple occasions about the process and how it affected their families' lives. Abortions are something that happen every single day. As a woman with potential to getting pregnant or a man with potential to getting a woman pregnant, it is important to know the reasons why abortion is morally wrong. The deadlines for them are not decided based on the development of the fetus. The real reasons why women choose to get abortions may not be what you think, and there are two effective alternatives to getting an abortion. The cardiovascular system is formed by week 4, and the nervous system is developed by week 6 or 7, before most women even discover that they are pregnant at about week 6 to 8. Thus, fetuses can feel pain. A simple tube heart develops in the embryo. It is pumping by week 4 at a regular rhythm. Why would you want to abort your baby when it has a real beating heart just like yours? In an article on procon.com, Maureen Kondik, PhD, professor of pediatrics, explains, most primitive response to pain, the spinal reflex, is developed by 8 weeks gestation, and adds that there is a universal agreement that pain is detected by the fetus in the first trimester. In the same article, Bernard N. Nathanson, MD, stated, when an abortion is performed on a 12-week-old fetus, we see in an ultrasound image the child's mouth open in a silent scream. This is the silent scream of a child threatened immensely with extinction. Now for abortion cutoffs and dates in America. New York Times states that more than half of Americans live in states where abortions are prohibited at about 24 to 26 weeks of pregnancy. In many states, the law bans abortion when a fetus is deemed viable outside the womb, which is generally in the range between 24 to 26 weeks. So you can have an abortion up to about week 24 or 26 in most states, but the heart is pumping already at week 4. By week 7, every one of the child's essential organs has begun to develop. There's a huge time difference when the fetus has developed vital organs and the time they can still get aborted. By the end of the first trimester, the fetus has lots of movement even though it cannot be felt by the mother, according to the CDC. There are 9 states in the District of Columbia that allow abortions up to full term, according to New York Times. The fetuses can feel pain during an abortion because most of their vital organs are formed by the time the mother even knows she is pregnant. The abortion deadlines have nothing to do with how developed the fetus is. Knowing that the fetus's nervous system is developed very early, it makes sense that they can feel pain. With that in mind, it is important to find out if women are aborting their own children with just cause. Why do women choose to have abortions? Abortions don't happen very often because of rape or incest like most people think. The real reasons why women get abortions is more often because they don't want a child, or in other words, a child would be an inconvenience. We will start with the percentages of what women find most important as a reason to have an abortion, brought to us by The Nation, a political economy culture news website. These statistics prove that there are millions of lives lost every single year because of selfish reasons. 25% of the reason women get abortions are because they don't feel old or mature enough to raise a child. 23% say they're not ready for another child. 19% say they can't afford a baby right now. Only 8% are because of complicated childbearing. Only 7% are because they don't want to be a single mother or relationship complications. 4% interfere with education or career. Only 4% are because of a health problem. 3% are because of possible fetal health problem. And less than 0.5% is because they were a rape victim. According to The Nation, one of the most common reasons for abortions is because women do not feel mature enough to take care of the child. The other common reasons: difficulty to afford a baby, reluctancy about being a single mother, and pressure to complete childbearing on the mother alone. It is selfish to sacrifice another human being's life just because you aren't ready to have a child. A child should never be considered a burden or an inconvenience. Women and men need to accept the consequences of their actions. If you are someone engaging in sexual intercourse, even with the use of contraceptives, you need to realize that no contraceptive, besides abstinence, is 100% effective. A lot of people think that abortions occur due to rape, incest, or health reasons, but that is not true. Let's dive into the statistics of what percentages of abortions are brought on by. According to the Human Life International, there are about 5,200 abortions performed every year to save the life or health of the mother, or about 0.36% of all abortions. There are about 3,400 abortions performed every year for fetal birth defects, or about 0.24% of all abortions. There are about 1,300 abortions performed every year due to rape or incest, or only about 0.09% of all abortions. According to the Human Life International, this means that 99.31% of all abortions are performed for social or economic reasons. Although people may think a majority of women get abortions because of rape, incest, the real reason is that women don't want to have the child and would rather kill it for their own convenience. Rather than aborting an unborn child because they're an inconvenience, there are resources to help raise a child if you can't afford to, or you can give it up for adoption. Adoption is a great alternative to an abortion. An alternative to aborting for financial reasons is using the nurse-family partnership. Adoption is a great option if you don't want to keep your child. Most women fail to consider adoption options because they are not informed about how the adoption works in modern-day society, My Adoption Agencies explains. Since 1987, the U.S. annually has a constant adoption rates which range from 118,000 to 127,000. Approximately 48% of couples that consider adoption turn to their churches and extended religious families for additional information and emotional support. Increasing numbers of children are placed through independent adoption agencies, with estimates ranging from 1/2 to 2/3 of adoptees being infants. At least 2% of women, regardless of their age, place their children up for adoption, my adoption agency states. My grandmother, Jerry Heft, has 5 children with Tom Squire. Their youngest child, David, my dad, was adopted. She says, "We adopted Dave when he was only 18 days old. I honestly can't imagine our lives without him if his biological mother would have chosen to end his life. Adoption is a great way to help a family or a couple who want a child. It works out for both parties, being that his biological mom didn't want him and we were lucky enough to find him." Planned Parenthood reported approximately 327,166 abortions, only providing 2,197 adoption referrals. These numbers further divide down to only 1 adoption per every 149 abortions, as stated by My Adoption Agencies. Adoption services are completely complementary to birth mothers, and by choosing adoption, birth parents are able to give the gift of life to adoptive parents that have no other means of becoming parents, says My Adoption Agencies. They also state, adoption allows birth parents to help plan their baby's future, hold and even participate in naming their babies, participate in continued contact with the adoptive families if they want, end their pregnancies on a positive note, and feel positive about bringing a healthy life into the world. No one will ever be able to hold or touch the baby. Parents miss having the opportunity to see children grow and develop into their own individuals. Pregnancy results in death, and many mothers ultimately suffer from guilt and shame about having an abortion. The Nurse Family Partnership is a great resource to help financially to raise a child if that were the reason someone wanted an abortion. Nurse Family Partnership explains that it is a nonprofit organization that provides agencies across the country the information, support, and specialized training. Nurse Family Partnership works by having specially trained nurses regularly visit first-time moms-to-be, starting early in the pregnancy and continuing through the child's 2nd birthday. The eligibility is to enroll within 28 weeks of pregnancy, first-time pregnancy, gross income at or below 185% of U.S. poverty income guidelines, What is offered? Coaching on proper prenatal practices like diet and healthy habits. Advice on the economic self-sufficiency and emotional support. Nurse-Family Partnership has served over 270,000 families. It is located in 42 out of the 50 states. How effective is it? It is very cost-effective. Nurse-Family Partnership states every $1 invested in NFP saves $5.70 in future costs for the higher-risk families served. As you can see here, the total savings for higher-risk families is $41,419 per child. These alternatives are proven to be effective cost-wise, but more importantly to help give your unborn child a life. In conclusion, there are many reasons to not get an abortion. An unborn baby's development in the womb is critical, and it's necessary to know that getting an abortion is wrong. The abortion deadlines as decided on by the government do not take in the fetus's development into account. The reason for most women who choose to get abortions are because it's an inconvenience. Therefore, even a reason like the lack of finances to raise a child is not an excuse when there are programs like the Nurse-Family Partnership to help. Unborn or not, babies are just as human as the rest of us. Don't they deserve the same chance at life as we do?